Commander Rin Calder stared at the contract hovering above his desk. The words were precise, the intent even more so. Enter a marital accord with a foreign aristocrat, accept a flagship courier fitted with military-grade upgrades, receive enough credits to pull his family out from under a mountain of hospital debt. His father's heart implants had failed twice. The collectors had already tagged the family home with a seizure notice. The clock blinked in the corner of the hollow. 24 hours. Admiral Nyla Hargreaves appeared on the comm. Her expression gave nothing away, iron-gray hair tucked behind one ear, voice steady as ice water. The Kitsari clans have requested a decorated human officer. Your rescue record on the Perseid line turned heads. You are their preferred match. Ren scrubbed a hand through dark hair and forced a smile that felt like a bad suit. With respect, ma'am, it sounds like I am being auctioned. You are being offered options, Hargreaves replied. The Kitsari hold twice the mineral wealth of our frontier, and they are about to open a new trade corridor. Their nobles gain status by forging bonds beyond their species. We gain a partner who can fund a peace that lasts. You gain a ship that outruns anything in your fleet. She paused. And an end to your father's bills. Ren swiped the file. A portrait unfolded. Lady Siora of House Emberclaw. Kitsari. A humanoid vulpine with sunrise orange fur, bright amber eyes, and ears tipped with white. Not slender, as he expected, but lush and strong, a huntress in ceremonial silk that had the wicked taste to fit her close. The caption listed 3 graduate merits, 1 dual victory, 2 exploratory commissions. She was not decoration. What happens after the vows? Ren asked. 7 days of formal appearances, Hargreaves said. Then your ship, your credits, your freedom. They want your name in their family scrolls. You want your father to live. Everyone calculates a win. Ren looked at the picture, then at the lamp that belonged to his mother, the only thing the repo crews could not bear to take. He exhaled slowly. Send the coordinates. The diplomatic cruiser Radiant Lark carried a forest in its spine. Vines looped along lattice bridges. Bioluminescent flowers opened as Ren passed beneath. The air tasted of spice and pine. At the far end of the garden, musicians played a low thrumming rhythm that felt like heartbeats. Lady Siora approached, flanked by 2 silver-masked attendants. Her gown flowed like liquid copper and silver, leaving her arms bare. Soft orange fur caught the garden light. A single tail, thick and plush, swept once behind her as if to test the air. She inclined her head. Commander Calder. I appreciate your courage. Ren bowed. Lady Siora? I appreciate your punctuality. The ceremony blended traditions. A circle of salt for humans, a circle of amber seeds for Kitsari. He spoke vows of protection and honest counsel. She spoke vows of stewardship and fierce defense. 2 rings of braided alloys clicked into place. The garden sang with layered harmonics as their signatures sealed. Guests cheered. Siora extended an open palm. Come. See what was promised. Through a viewing arch, a ship hung like a silver arrow. Starfall Reach. Compact, yes, but the lines said speed and the hull texture said hidden teeth. Ren felt a tug in his chest that had nothing to do with romance. Later, attendants guided them to a suite aboard Starfall Reach. The main cabin was clean and severe, all brushed metal softened by saffron carpets. The bed was large enough to embarrass a priest. Siora closed the door with a touch. The lock whispered. Ren tested it. It stayed firm. You locked it, he said. I ensured privacy, she said, every syllable cool honey. The pact requires 7 days of cohabitation. I intend to see the terms kept without interference. Ren crossed his arms. A gilded cage is still a cage. Then let us see if your cage has a view. She gestured to the star window. The planet turned below, wrapped in auroras like living silk. The alarm cut through their argument like a spark through dry leaves. The cabin lights bled to red. A tactical map bloomed over the table. 3 hard targets approached in a pincer. No transponder signatures. Siora's playful mask vanished. Outer clans, she said, voice flat. Hired blades do their work. Ren's training woke inside him as if it had slept in the next room. Open weapons registry, he said. Show me real numbers. Siora flicked fingers across the hollow. Armor rated above anything in its class. Shield lattices that could flex rather than shear. Point defense hidden under cosmetic plates. A fox that wore a songbird's feathers. You were never going to hand this to me and wave goodbye, Ren said. Not if you proved unworthy, she said. Decide later. Fly now. The first volley slammed their shields. Impact shivered through the deck. Shields at 87, the ship announced in a voice that sounded like a patient librarian. Ren leaned into the helm and saw lines before they were drawn. Bring auxiliary to port shield. Lock forward array but hold fire. Throttle to half. Let them think we fear. Siora obeyed without argument. The three attackers tightened their net. Now, Ren said. Reverse thrust. Ventral cannons, full bite. Starfall reach bucked like a living thing. The lead raider drifted into the exact sliver of space Ren had shaped for it. The ventral array spoke in white light. Armor peeled. The raider vented air and hope. The others tried to split and rake their engines. Ren feathered thrusters through a corkscrew inside the debris, then cut right when every instinct said left. A second raider clipped a spinning plate and exposed its belly. Aft cannons harvested. The last ship turned to flee. Ren led it. Siora did not. One long lance from the dorsal spine kissed its tail. The raider tumbled, regained control, and ran into the night with a limp. You fight like stormwater, Siora said, breathing hard. Everywhere at once and heavier than I expect. Ren almost smiled. And you follow orders with a speed that scares me. Damage reports scrolled. Containment fields held. Engines at 80%. Ren eased out a breath he did not know he held. He turned to find Siora watching him, interest sharpened into respect. You read our ship in a minute, she said. You read our enemies faster. My house values both. Ren nodded at the door. Does your house value freedom? Siora tipped her head. For prey, yes. For partners, we prefer a test. She touched the lock. It sighed open. The corridor beyond smelled of hot metal and garden earth. They reached the bridge. Starfall reach did not mimic human design. Stations flowed in a circle like stones in a brook. Seats molded to hips then adjusted to rib length. A curved screen wrapped a taller field of stars. Siora slid into the central chair and offered the tactical station with an open palm. Ren took it without a word. Friendly signatures bloomed. A Kitsari defense wing had answered the distress call. When their commander appeared on screen, Siora's expression cooled. Cousin Zevran. Your timing exists. Zevran's ears flattened a fraction. House Emberclaw congratulates you on your prudent choice of spouse. We detected chatter among the Ashbriar partisans. They bet heavily on your death. So did our admirers, Ren said. 2 houses gambling on the same casket. Efficient. Zevran blinked, amused despite himself. The fleet extends invitation to the Ember Court aboard the Evershade. You will be displayed. You will be fed. We will all pretend this was simple. Siora cut the line. Ren, she said softly, keep that mind sharp. We are about to walk into a hall of smiles and knives. The Evershade's reception gallery was a prism grown into a ship. A dome of living crystal arched above a floor that reflected stars. Hundreds of Kitsari nobles drifted among hovering lanterns. Their fur ranged from warm gold to near black, all edged with pale ear tips and ring tails. Music like falling snow hummed around the edges of conversation. Siora took Ren's arm and drew him closer than formal necessity demanded. You will be asked 10 unanswerable questions, she murmured. Answer 5 with humor, 3 with misdirection, and 2 with silence. Also, hold my hand. Ren squeezed once. Copy. The Chancellor of their cluster approached with guards in cloud-colored armor. Chancellor Vale. Eyes a cool green, smile measured. Lady Siora, he said, and then to Ren, the human who turned 3 raiders into 2 funerals and a lesson. Your species produces bold improvisers. Your species produces very fine ships, Ren replied. He kept his shoulders loose and his chin level. Nothing about the court felt safe, yet Siora never stopped touching him. A brush of her fingers against his wrist. A palm at the back of his neck when a question grew too intimate. A head leaned to his shoulder during a toast. Each contact said we are one body, one lie, and possibly one truth. Dancers poured into the center, tails cutting arcs like painted fans. The music slowed. Siora's claws traced his palm. The joining step, she whispered. Newly bonded couples are expected to try. I will not let you fall. Ren had 2 left feet and a head full of caution. He still stepped forward. The dance was easy to learn and hard to fake. A slow circle, a turn, a synchronized inhale with foreheads nearly touching. Siora fit against him like she was built to fill space he had not known he carried. Heat trickled through his chest in a way that made him angry and grateful at once. When the music faded, a courier in midnight silk bowed low. Lady Siora? Commander called her. The Chancellor asks for your counsel in the strategic chamber. Urgent. Here it comes, Siora said. The strategic room abandoned the glitter for bone-white walls and a flat table littered with light. Vale stood with 3 counselors and 2 fleet captains. He wasted no words. We intercepted signals that originated on this ship. Someone fed the raiders your route and the time of your vows. Ren studied the playback. Whoever sent it knew the court's patrol cycles, the security delays of the garden doors, and the timing of the salt and amber circles. Not a lucky guess. A hand inside the house. Compartmentalize, Ren said. Give each suspect cluster a different false thread. Change the hour of a ceremony here, the deck number there, the rotation of guards elsewhere. Watch which lie leaves the nest. Kitsari eyes met over the table. It risks offense, Vale said. Siora bared a hint of teeth. Let them be offended. I prefer living through the night. The plan ignited. The council carried tales to different places. Ren and Siora returned to Starfall Reach to dress for a ritual that would prove their bond to every skeptic in 5 clusters. Siora fastened an obsidian clasp at her throat and watched Ren through the reflection. You should know what our bonding requires. I know it is intimate, he said. I know there is an old test and a new one. I know there is no faking. Her ears flicked once, a small admission. There is a ceremonial drink. There is a dance, a breath together, a touch that bridges mind to mind. The older part is private. The newer part is biochemical. It confirms pleasure given and received, not conquest imposed. If we cannot meet as equals, the ritual fails. Ren set his cuff at the same time she set her clasp. Equal, he said. Or not at all. The Hall of Echoes glowed with amber lamps. Human envoys stood beside Kitsari elders in layered silk. Ren's uniform had been altered to echo Siora's colors. Midnight and copper. He thought the effect theatrical. Siora thought he looked like a hero from a folk song and told him so with a tiny smile that she did not let anyone else see. The elder officiant lifted a carved vessel that pulsed with soft light. The draft of kinship. Shared by 2, sworn over by many. Ren had arranged a single switch in the plan. A rumor had been fed to one suspect, that the chalice would carry a micro-lattice of fleet positions for transfer after the vows. He took the first sip. The liquid tasted like summer fruit with a root heat below. He passed the cup to Siora. Across the room, a diplomat in storm gray shifted the folds of his robe and revealed the edge of a weapon. Ren adjusted his collar, the signal. Hidden guards moved like quiet weather. The first traitor hit the floor with a hiss and a clatter. A second tried a different door and ran into human marines who looked proud to be wrong about Kitsari reaction times. The elder never paused. Rituals in old cultures had learned to continue while the world shifted. Siora and Rin crossed wrists, breathed as one, and pressed forehead to forehead. Rin felt a prickle at the crown of his head, and a slow bloom of warmth that came from outside and inside at once. It felt like a door opening and a hand offering light. When they kissed, the hall hummed with voices. The elder lifted the vessel. Bond proven by oath, by science, and by witness. Artificial dawn crept through Starfall Reach. Ren woke to a soft weight against his shoulder and the sound of Siora's breathing. Her orange fur warmed to gold in the light. Without the court mask, her face had a human softness that reminded him that labels did not hold people the way we imagine. "You are staring," she said into his shoulder. "I am verifying data," he said. She laughed, then stilled. "There is a sound in the outer room." Ren slid from the bed with the kind of grace that only a life of training can give and took the sidearm he had placed on the night table. Siora palmed the flat device hidden in her sash. He listened. A faint click. The whisper of a console accepting a foreign key. They used a hidden camera feed that Siora summoned with a gesture. A junior attaché in sea green leaned over their comrade, inserting a crystal. Ren recognized her as the curious one from the feast who had asked 3 odd questions about ship registries. "Alive if possible," Ren whispered. "We want the tree, not a single apple." Siora nodded and slipped through a side corridor. Ren stepped into the room and leveled the sidearm. "Move no more." The attaché flinched, then reached for her belt. Ren scorched the wall beside her head. "The next one goes home," he said. Siora emerged behind the woman, silent as dusk. "Hands up," the Kitsari said. "Slow." "Good." The attaché lifted her chin. "They have my bond partner," she said. "If I fail, he dies." Siora's ears lowered in something like sorrow. House Ashbriar preferred bribes last year. Now they prefer cages. "We will confirm your claim. Try nothing foolish." The woman tried something foolish. She bit down, blue froth salted her lips, and she fell. Ren caught her and felt nothing to save. Siora pried the crystal from the dead hand and closed the eyes of the spy without ceremony. "We take this to intelligence," she said. "Then we sharpen every blade." The data crystal held maps of Evershade's defensive grid, updated patrol cycles, and the escort plan for the Alliance procession. With this, Ashbriar and their human backers could pin the fleet to a single axis and tear it like cloth. Chancellor Vale listened, then spoke the only answer that fit. "The ceremony worked. Now we turn that success into a net." Ren detailed a new formation that looked weak on the obvious approach and lethal at the second plane. "Bait them with empty space, then fold the Reach ships over like a book." Vale considered, then signed. Siora stood beside Ren as he traced lines. "You set traps like a patient animal," she murmured. "You make the enemy think the field is their friend." "I learned from rivers," Ren said. "Water always wins. It is patient and everywhere at once." Siora's tail brushed his calf. "We will live if the water wins." 3 days later, star flares marked the end of the raider fleet. The false weakness had pulled them in. The second plane had closed over them like a jaw. Ashbriar elders were taken in silk chains and their human contractors found no quiet exit. Messages that had whispered from beyond the frontier went silent. On the observation deck of Starfall Reach, Ren watched as repair craft stitched scorch marks from Evershade's port wing. Siora joined him in a practical jumpsuit that turned function into a suggestion. "The Alliance is secure," she said. The quiet voice carried so much relief that Ren wanted to hold it with both hands. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now," she said, "the 7 days are complete. The pact says you may take your ship and go where you wish. Your father's account has been cleared. Your family keeps its home." The words came out steady. Her ears said the rest. Ren looked at the ship that any pilot would kill to fly. Then he looked at the woman who had turned a contract into a life. He spoke softly. "What if freedom looks like staying?" Siora's answering smile was sunlight on new snow. "Then I will admit that locking the door was never only a legal precaution." He laughed and pulled her close. "You wanted a test. I wanted a partner," she said into his collar. "I got a storm." Starfall Reach slipped free of fleet formation and angled toward the Cygnus Nebula. The screen filled with curtains of green and violet light that pulsed like the slow breath of some sleeping giant. Ren settled into the helm while Siora curled her tail along the arm of his chair, as if claiming territory. The nebula's edge carried sensor ghosts and old miners' tales. Ships spoke of phantom beacons and music in the wires. Ren trusted math, not myths, yet even math felt different here. Plasma rivers wound inside the cloud. Charged dust swarmed like schools of fish. He set a cautious course, and Siora watched the spectral glow paint the fur along her wrist. My mother used to tell me that Cygnus sings to people who listen, she said. When I was a kid, I pressed my ear to a copper bowl and swore I could hear it. Ren listened to the hum in the hull. It was not a song. It was a layered voice that wrapped around the ship and checked its weight. He ran a diagnostic anyway. Radiation within safe tolerance. Static harvesters at 60%. Engines fed clean. They passed an old buoy that had not pinged in 20 years. It blinked once as they crossed its shadow, then died again. Siora tilted her head. Did you see that? Ren nodded. He sent a handshake. The buoy coughed up a string of data like a bird's last feather. A distress note. A mining scow named Barrow Finch lost power near a storm column. Crew last seen 5 days ago. Honeymoon, Siora said with soft irony. Rescue is a better tradition, Ren answered. He rolled the ship toward a darker fold in the cloud. The nebula deepened. The lights outside thickened until they felt like moving water. Siora laid a hand on his shoulder and left it there. They found Barrow Finch nested in a pocket cave carved by charged wind. The scow's lights flickered. 2 escape pods floated nearby without launch marks. The hull bore scorched scars and a long gouge like a claw. No sign of raiders. Too clean for pirates. Ren orbited once at a respectful distance. Siora ran life scans. Faint. 3 hearts. One strong enough to ping back on its own. Ren opened a channel. Barrow Finch, this is Starfall Reach. We have you. Hold steady. A human voice crackled through static. Whoever you are, keep your distance. We picked up something in the storm, and it does not like company. Ren and Siora traded a look. We are coming aboard, Ren said. Lock your outer door and route us to your emergency berth. They suited in light armor and crossed the cling of a cold lock. Inside, the scow smelled like burnt copper and fear. A man with a shaved head and greased tattoos held a flasher in one shaking hand. 2 Kitsari miners huddled behind him with blankets over their ears as if sound could not find them through cloth. The human lowered the flasher when he saw Siora's crest. House Emberclaw. Praise every star that ever shone. He pointed down a corridor that ended in black scorch. We lost power when the storm screamed. Things woke in our wires. My engineer sealed herself in the core to keep them from learning our shape. Ren felt the fine hairs on his arms stand. Siora's ears tilted forward. She pressed 2 fingers to a bulkhead and closed her eyes. There. A rhythm inside the metal. Not breath, but something like a heart that had forgotten its first purpose. He led the way down the corridor. The door to the core was fused. Ren took the cutter and opened a circle while Siora whispered to the ship in her own language. The circle fell in with a stuttering clang. A woman sat on the deck beyond with her back to a stasis valve. Her eyes were closed, and her hands rested on the panel as if she prayed to it. Silver threads ran from the panel into the air, and then into nothing. They were not wires. They were shapes made of noise. Engineer, Ren said gently. She slid one eye open. You brought a song ship. Good. You need to lift us and go. There is a tone in this cloud that eats intention. Ren crouched and met her gaze. How do we cut it? Do not cut, she whispered. Harmonize. Lift the key. The cloud hates empty rooms. Fill it. Back on Starfall Reach, Ren linked ship harmonics to the scow's dead grid. Siora released safeties on the voice coils that slept in the ship's ribs. Kitsari's ships held secrets in their bones. This one had more than most. Siora stood with one palm on the central strut and the other on Ren's shoulder, a living bridge. He built a model of the noise he had seen as silver thread. It wavered when he fixed it, and sharpened when he let it go. He tried to cancel it, and the model laughed. He tried to starve it, and the model grew teeth. Siora did not speak. She breathed with him and let him find the line. He played 3 notes in sequence, and watched the wave bend. He changed the middle one and saw the wave blink like a lizard's eye. He set the first note lower, and the whole shape shifted to follow. It is not a predator, he said. It is a shepherd. It pushes ships into safe eddies. It has learned wrong. Ciora stroked the strut. Old machines forget their first names unless someone sings them. Call it back. Ren advanced power in a slow arc and extended the ship's field over the scow. The coils hummed. The hull glowed faintly along joints that no human designer would have chosen. He sent a cord through the web. The nebula answered. The pressure on the scow's skin lessened. Static fell like dust. The engineer in the core opened both eyes and smiled in the camera, small and tired and very brave. Barrow Finch came alive on half power. Ren held the cord as they eased the scow out of the cave and into thinner cloud. Once free, he lowered the note a fraction. The shepherd moved away as if it had decided their flock had learned to walk. The lights on the buoy far behind them blinked one last time and went to sleep for good. Ciora let out a breath that looked like prayer. Your mind is not only water. It is also a tuning fork. And yours, Ren said, is a map that lets a stranger turn the right way on the first try. They delivered Barrow Finch to a repair cradle near the edge of the cloud. The human captain shook Ren's hand and touched his heart in a gesture that crossed cultures. The Kitsari miners pressed their foreheads to Ciora's ring and called her lady in the old way, a name that meant guardian more than noble. When Starfall Reach turned for free flight again, a priority message pinged Ren's private channel. He almost ignored it, then saw the code from his sister. He took it at the small table in the galley while Ciora brewed something sharp and sweet. Ren. The screen filled with Jin's freckled face and quick eyes. Dad says stop sending money and start sending visits. He is walking more. The implants finally took. The doctors say the new line of meds worked because you got them in time. She leaned closer. Also, a woman with very pretty ears sent us a food chest filled with things we cannot identify. Explain. Ren looked at Ciora. She pretended not to listen and failed at it with grace. That was a welcome gift, he said carefully. A custom in her culture. Jean grinned like a fire. In her culture. Brother, if you marry an angel fox without telling me, I will rewrite your academy records to say you failed at doors. Bring her to meet Dad. He needs someone who makes tea that does not taste like old bolts. The connection ended with a wink and a wave. Ciora set 2 cups on the table and slid into the seat opposite. Your sister has good instincts. She will like you, Ren said. My father will pretend to disapprove, then give you a charm from my mother's box, and then you will teach him to cheat at cards. It is all very predictable. Ciora stirred her tea and met his eyes over the steam. Predictable is another word for safe. I could like that. A second message arrived with the quiet tone reserved for Admiralty. Nyla Hargreaves appeared with less frost than usual. You two have a way of making your vacations louder than doctrine prefers, she said. Good work at Cygnus. Also, your rescue tripped a sensor net that belongs to people we prefer not to name. If you are willing, there is a listening post near the Wreath Passage that has gone dark. You are close. You move fast. Say yes if your honeymoon time allows. Ciora took Ren's hand without looking away from the screen. We say yes. The Wreath Passage wound between threads of dark matter that behaved more like vines than math. Old navigators left charms tied to this route, tiny bits of wire or carved wood hung on control yokes. Ren respected tradition when it had teeth. He hung a small coin from his mother's purse on the side panel and felt better for it. The listening post hid in the shadow of a fractured moon. It should have carried a steady heartbeat on wideband. It breathed once as they arrived and then went still. Ciora frowned. No heat signature. No waste. Either stripped or sleeping. Ren drifted Starfall Reach into the moon's slip pocket and cut the engines to a murmur. He expanded the passive array to the limit and watched the black speak. Something large had passed this way on low burn and perfect balance. Not raiders. Raiders did not care who heard their boots. They matched the post-stocking ring and crossed into a station that smelled of dust and new metal. The lights came on 3 seconds late, as if they had thought about not bothering. A mural along the entry showed a human hand and a Kitsari paw joined at the wrist by a twist of copper. It had been scored by a knife in 3 neat lines. Siora's tail went still. That mark is old and new. Old for the outer clans. New for the ones who pay them now. They reached the control room and found doors open and chairs pushed back. Whoever left had left fast but not in panic. Ren slid into the main chair and woke the core with a careful knock. A thin voice spoke from a hidden pillar. Present. Damage minimal. Staff evacuated by order. Ren lifted one brow at Siora. By whose order? The pillar replied with a code that signed to the Office of Silent Roads, a black cell inside the Admiralty that spoke in favors rather than briefings. Hargreaves had not asked them to check a broken sensor. She had sent them to read messages written in the dust. Ren stood and looked at the long window that faced the reef. He did not speak for a time. Siora let the silence hold and set a small cup of water on the console for the station ghost as if it could drink it. When Ren turned, his gaze was clear and hard. Someone wanted this post looking empty to anyone who checked with lazy eyes. Someone wanted us to see the knife marks and think of old enemies. Someone is stacking masks. We will peel them, Siora said. Together, Ren answered. Ren and Siora moved through the listening posts like ghosts of their own. The deeper sections still hummed faintly, background systems refusing to die. The data cores were intact but shielded behind encryption webs that hissed when touched. Siora's tail swayed as she studied them. They aren't standard human locks, she said. This is Kitsari patterning. House Crestfire style, one of the clans exiled a decade ago. Ren folded his arms. Exiled clans working inside Admiralty facilities? Someone either bribed them or invited them. Siora pressed her palm against the terminal. Lines of light danced up her forearm, reading her genetics, responding to the trace of Emberclaw in her blood. The lock stuttered, then unfolded like petals. What did you just do? Ren asked. Whispered in a dead dialect, she replied. The Crestfire used to build our stealth technology. Their signatures always carry a keyhole for a sister house. The hollow banks came alive with blue data streams, filling the chamber with shifting light. Ren scanned the first line and frowned. It wasn't listening post telemetry. It was cargo records. Hundreds of shipments marked as refugee transfers, all routed through silent coordinates beyond the mapped rim. They weren't watching enemies, Ren said slowly. They were moving people. Siora traced one record. These names, many are hybrids. Human Kitsari, like the ones born after the Alliance treaties. Some houses still don't accept them. Her voice dropped. They were taking the unwanted. Ren clenched his fists. To where? Siora met his gaze. Let's find out. The data led them beyond the charted corridor, following faint beacons that winked in and out like dying stars. 3 days later, they found the coordinates, an empty sector on every official map. But the scanners saw something else. Multiple life signs, Siora whispered. Tens of thousands. Enclosed structures, ships, linked by corridors. Not warships. Converted haulers. Ren magnified the view. A fleet of derelict hulls formed a ragged ring, each vessel patched with scavenged plates. Faint lights glimmered along the spines. They built a city, he said. A hidden one. Siora's voice softened. The orphan fleet. It's legend among my people, hybrids who fled when the houses refused them. They were said to have vanished into dust. Ren's console pinged. Someone's hailing us. The screen flickered, revealing a woman with silver fur streaked by human brown and eyes the color of stormlight. Unregistered vessel, state your intent. Siora stepped forward. We're not with the houses. We seek truth. The hybrid studied her, then nodded once. Dock at Ringgate 9. No weapons. And if you lie, you will not have time to regret it. Ren exhaled slowly as the channel cut. Friendly. For us, that is friendly, Siora said, half smiling. Ring Gate 9 opened into a corridor of hanging lights and murals painted on metal walls. They depicted fox-eared children playing under twin suns, humans teaching them to fly paper gliders. Siora touched one mural reverently. They remembered beauty. Armed sentries waited at the gate, but their weapons were old. The leader of the hybrids approached, the same woman from the screen. She was tall, powerful, and carried herself with command born of survival. "I am Commander Lyra of the Orphan Fleet," she said. "And you, Lady Emberclaw, carry a name that condemned many of us." Siora bowed her head. "Then let me help repair what my house broke." Ren stepped forward. "Your fleet's signals were rerouted through a listening post under false Admiralty control. Someone is using you, or planning to find you." Lyra's expression hardened. "We already suspected." Supply ships vanished. Our transmissions echoed back in languages we didn't send. If they found us, we'll burn our drives before we're caged again. Siora met her eyes. "Or you fight beside us. The Alliance could protect you." Lyra gave a bitter laugh. "Protect? The Alliance made us exiles. But," she looked between them, "you came with a warship, and a human who doesn't flinch at fur. Maybe there's hope in that." Ren smiled slightly. "You'd be surprised what I don't flinch at." They shared data deep into the night cycle. The Orphan Fleet's scouts had intercepted coded transmissions from House Crestfire, referencing a final cleansing. Before they could decipher them fully, Starfall Reach's sensors flared red. Siora's tail went rigid. "Multiple warp entries. 7 ships. Crestfire signatures." Ren was already moving. "How did they find us this fast?" Lyra slammed her fist against a panel. "There's a tracker in your hull. You brought them here." Siora's eyes flashed. "Impossible. My ship's clean." "Your ship was a gift from the houses," Lyra snapped. "And gifts often bite." Ren sliced through the commotion. "Argue later. We have minutes." The hybrid fleet scrambled, thrusters igniting in chaotic waves. Starfall Reach rose from the docking tether, shields humming alive. Siora sat at the helm. Ren took tactical. The Orphan Fleet was brave but underarmed. Against 7 Crestfire cruisers, courage meant delay, not victory. "Suggestions?" she asked. Ren's mind raced. "We can't outgun them, but we can outthink them. If their targeting systems still use house encryption, maybe your blood can confuse them." Siora blinked. "You want me to spoof my own lineage?" "It worked for opening the post," he said. "Might work for closing a fight." They launched every emitter Starfall Reach had. Siora sent a coded pulse through the field, a mimic of a royal distress beacon. Crestfire sensors would read it as a direct call from their matriarch. Within moments, confusion bloomed among the enemy formation. Half their ships slowed, others broke ranks. Ren seized the moment. "Lyra, push through the center. We'll shield your flank." The Orphan Fleet surged ahead, patched hulls glowing with defiance. Starfall Reach wove between the Crestfire lines, guns whispering bursts of white fire. Ren's voice was steady, his hands a blur. "Auxiliary to dorsal lattice. Pulse 3-second bursts. Keep their AI drunk." Siora's eyes gleamed like molten gold as she danced the ship through a storm of plasma. "They'll regroup soon. Then we make them regret doing it twice," Ren said. An explosion rippled through the void, the lead Crestfire cruiser tearing in half as Lyra's hybrids detonated stolen warheads at point-blank range. The shockwave rolled over them. Siora cursed in Kitsari, gripping the controls. Ren grinned. "That's what I call diplomacy." Hours later, silence returned to the sector. Wreckage drifted, glowing faintly against the nebular light. The Orphan Fleet had taken losses, but they remained alive. Crestfire's command vessels lay broken among their own lies. Siora sat slumped in the helm chair, fur matted with sweat, uniform torn at one sleeve. Ren stood behind her, resting a hand on her shoulder. "You did it." She looked up, tired and fierce. "We did it. And now, every house in the sector will know it." Lyra's voice came through the calm. Starfall Reach, your signals saved thousands. The hybrids will not forget. Ren smiled faintly. Then maybe we've earned a few new friends. More than friends, Siora said softly, her tail brushing against his arm. Allies. And perhaps a new beginning. Ren looked out at the burning wrecks, then at her reflection in the glass. Seems beginnings follow you everywhere. She smiled, faintly teasing. You keep following me into them. They guided the remaining ships toward a safe harbor near the rim. For the first time, humans, Kitsari, and hybrids moved together in open formation. Siora watched from the viewport, pride softening her sharp features. My mother used to say unity was a myth, she said quietly. That our instincts would always divide us. Ren took her hand. Then let's prove Mother's wrong for once. Starfall Reach sailed ahead of the fleet, its wake glimmering across the void like a comet's trail. Behind them, the Orphan Fleet's makeshift lights formed a constellation no map had ever marked. Ren leaned closer. So, Lady Emberclaw, what comes after saving the galaxy twice in one marriage? Siora's grin was pure mischief. Dinner first. Then perhaps you can finally stop calling me lady. He laughed. Siora, then. But you'll forgive me if I still salute. She reached up, tracing the line of his jaw with a clawed fingertip. You'll learn better customs soon enough, husband. And as the stars folded open before them, the foxgirl of House Emberclaw and the human who once sold himself for freedom vanished into light, no longer bound by contract or duty, but by choice. Their story had begun as a bargain. It ended as a legend. Weeks passed before the flames of war cooled completely. The Orphan Fleet found new anchorage within a remote nebular cradle now christened Haven's Crown. Starfall Reach floated at its center like a guardian lantern, her hull newly repaired, her colors reflecting twin suns that burned behind a veiled curtain of dust. Ren and Siora stood side by side on the outer deck, watching the hybrids construct domes from melted wreckage and crystal. A civilization was rising where there had once been exile. You gave them a future, Ren said quietly. Siora's tail swayed slowly. So did you. But there will be a reckoning with the houses. Crestfire was only the first. The others will not stay silent once they learn who you fought beside. Let them speak, Ren said. If the Alliance stands for peace, it must face its own ghosts. She studied him in silence for a long moment, then reached up to adjust the clasp at his collar, her claws brushing his skin. You were meant to be a soldier, she murmured, but you've become a voice instead. Ren caught her wrist gently. And you were meant to be a symbol, but you've become a storm. Her muzzle curved in a sly smile. Then perhaps we were both meant to rewrite the prophecy. Days later, a transmission arrived from the Sol Sector, an old-fashioned video packet, delayed by light years. Ren's father appeared on screen, gray-bearded but smiling. Behind him, Jean waved a hydrospanner like a wand. Son, his father said, your sister finally finished repairing the shuttle you left us. Don't ask how she got the parts. Word reached us about your diplomatic adventures. We're proud, though we don't understand half of it. When you can, come home. Bring the girl with the ears. We'll keep a teapot warm. Ren laughed softly as the message ended, emotion tightening his chest. Siora leaned over his shoulder, eyes gleaming with warmth. Your father sounds kind, she said. He's the reason I ever believed peace was possible, Ren replied. He used to say that enemies are just friends who haven't eaten together yet. Siora chuckled. Then I suppose we should dine with every planet in the sector. Ren smiled. You'll regret saying that when you try human coffee. Their alliance soon drew notice. The joint victory at Cygnus and wreaths spread across both empires like a song. Delegations began to arrive at Haven's Crown, human envoys curious about Kitsari craftsmanship, Kitsari nobles curious about human stubbornness, and hybrid leaders who demanded a place in every conversation. Siora moved among them with poise and quiet fire. Ren followed close, his human rank now repurposed as diplomatic muscle. At a long table of translucent crystal, they stood before the newly assembled Council of Unity. Veil of the Houses was there, gray and humbled. Admiral Hargreaves appeared via hologram, her steel composure softened by something like pride. Lyra represented the orphan fleet, wearing an old jacket Wren had lent her. Siora opened the council. Our species have survived 1,000 small wars and one great one. Yet it was never guns that saved us. It was a shared breath between a human and a Kitsari who realized that survival requires more than bloodlines. Wren stepped forward. And we'll make that breath permanent. No more hidden colonies. No more exiles. A new charter, for every hybrid, every orphan, every name erased by politics. The chamber fell silent. Then Hargreaves spoke through static. Make it happen, Commander. You have our mandate. The day the Covenant of Haven was signed, the nebula's twin suns aligned, painting the domes below in a cascade of firelight. Crowds gathered along the observation decks, human and Kitsari alike. Siora wore ceremonial armor traced with gold filigree, her fur brushed until it glowed like sunset. Wren stood beside her in a black jacket marked by both Empire's insignia, the fox sigil of Emberclaw stitched beside Earth's silver star. When they placed their hands upon the Unity seal, a ripple of light spread outward through every ship and dome. It was not magic, but energy, a joint pulse that bound the networks of Haven's crown into a single living grid. As the lights dimmed, Siora turned to him. You realize what this means? We've made ourselves targets for every house that fears change. Wren grinned. Let them try. I'm married to the fiercest woman in 2 galaxies. She smirked, her tail flicking behind her. Flattery keeps you alive, husband. Night cycles on Haven's crown were rare gifts, moments when engines stilled and stars reclaimed the silence. Wren and Siora often climbed to the highest platform atop Starfall Reach, wrapped in shared blankets and distant hums of plasma turbines. Do you ever miss Earth? She asked one evening, her ears twitching against his shoulder. Sometimes, Wren admitted. But the stars feel closer here. Like we're part of something worth guarding. Siora tilted her head. You humans always want to guard things. You don't realize some fires guard themselves. He laughed softly. And you foxes always sound like poets when you're half asleep. Her tail curled around his leg. Poets get better kisses. Wren looked down at her glowing amber eyes. Then I'll keep you writing. Months later, while mapping trade routes for the new alliance, Starfall Reach detected a strange pulse beyond the rim, a single repeating tone that matched the harmonic they'd once used to calm the Cygnus storm. Siora leaned forward. It's the same frequency. Someone's calling us. Wren adjusted the scanners. The pulse formed a pattern, coordinates encoded in rhythm rather than numbers. Whatever's out there, it knows our song. She smiled. Then it's time for another rescue. They set a course, leaving Haven's crown behind with a trail of ion light that shimmered like foxfire. The coordinates led them to a rift where space itself bent like glass under pressure. Within it floated a colossal construct, ancient, silent, and covered in glyphs that glowed faintly as Starfall Reach approached. It's pre-Valerian, Siora breathed. Older than both our civilizations. Wren circled the structure slowly. And still powered. Whoever built this wanted to be found. The ship's AI whispered through the comms. Foreign network requesting handshake. Energy signature compatible. Siora met his gaze. We could learn everything, or wake something best left sleeping. Wren smiled faintly. History doesn't ask permission. Together, they opened the link. The construct unfolded like a blooming flower, revealing a hollow chamber filled with projections, images of humans and Kitsari working side by side, thousands of years older than recorded history. A shared origin, buried and forgotten. Siora's eyes widened. We weren't strangers after all. Wren whispered, awed. Maybe the stars were just reminding us. As they floated among the holograms, Starfall Reach's logs began to fill with data, maps, languages, genetic symphonies linking both species to the same ancient seed world. Siora turned toward him, her expression soft with wonder. This changes everything. Wren wrapped an arm around her waist, pulling her close. Then we'll change it together. The holograms brightened, surrounding them in light. Two figures, one human, one fox-like, stood hand in hand at the heart of the projection. Their silhouettes matched perfectly. The past had chosen its echo. Starfall Reach left the rift behind, carrying proof that humanity and Kitsari had never been meant to fight. They were family divided by time. When the fleet returned to Haven's Crown, the world changed again. The Covenant evolved into the Legacy Accord, binding not just two nations but an entire heritage. Ren and Siora became more than symbols. They became storytellers, reminders that love forged in necessity could bloom into destiny. On quiet nights, when the ship drifted between stars, Siora would rest her head against his chest, listening to the rhythm that had once guided her people through storms. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked one evening, voice barely above a whisper. Ren smiled against her hair. "Not for a single second." She laughed softly. "Good. Because I locked the navigation again." He sighed, grinning. "And here I thought I was free." Her tail brushed his cheek. "You are. Just not from me." And with that, Starfall Reach vanished into the horizon, a streak of silver and orange across eternity, a testament to a love born from duty, tempered by war, and destined to outlast the stars themselves.